What's up, Gamecock Nation? Tashawn Wanamaker here checking in, and you're about to hear the show presented by Express Suns Rooms of Columbia. Spurs up.
Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the raid breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina! It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losing.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
He almost banked it in. Michi Johnson, that is, last night. Carolina falls to number 2 Alabama at Colonial Life Arena. Greetings and good morning, and welcome aboard Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Sinorama Studios and, of course, presented by Express Sunrooms. We are also powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. It's been 80 degrees all week. If you don't own an electric bike and you want to get one, I'd say it's a pretty good time to do so. electricbikescharleston.com. JC, JB, Phil here until 1 o'clock this afternoon. We will be joined by a couple of guests today. The Mental Edge coming up in the second hour with a green screen that won't stay green for whatever reason here at my house. With Sawyer Nix, we've had to kind of bump him around a little bit the last couple of weeks, but we've got him today in the 12 o'clock hour. And then coming up here in less than a half an hour, in hour number 1, that would be Chris Phillips with the Spurs Up show. Lots of reaction, I'm sure, from him. And last night's near upset of the Tide in Colonial Life Arena. I mentioned that to both of you yesterday. I thought that this thing might maybe be a little bit closer than people were thinking it was going to be, and it was. Of course, I also continue to not be able to figure out what in the world is happening to my computer here. But
technology.
Yeah.
Yay!
How about this?
Yay!
Let's just try the.
Maybe it likes the Ravenel Bridge more. Yeah.
Everybody likes
Ravenel
that.
Bridge.
Everybody likes that,
Good Lord.
JB. That's awesome.
Either that or Meredith's new hat is jinxing me today. It is Thursday, February the 23rd, as we wind down the end of the month of February. Gamecocks continue to win on the baseball field as well as they shut out Queens College yesterday in double figures again on the scoreboard, and another ball left the yard for the home run hitting Yardcocks, and they've got Pennsylvania coming into town tomorrow for a 3-game series. So lots to get to. We know we'll always have football on the agenda, and we see all of you there in the Nana Sports chat box ready to jump in and cruise through a couple of hours of Gamecock conversation. What's up, guys?
Doing well. Yeah, woke up. Missed tip-off yesterday. Fell asleep. We were lying in bed watching the penultimate episode of Breaking Bad last night because we're doing a rewatch on that. And, missed the game. Did watch the baseball game, though. I know.
I'm working my way through Breaking Bad. I've read that the first season is a little slower than the rest, so I'm trying to kind of gradually consume the first season. I'm sure it'll take off since then. I actually did watch the game. Turned it on when it was 29-25 Gamecocks because I really wasn't planning on it, but I probably jinxed the team because I sat there and watched the rest. And I tell you got to be proud of the effort. You got to be proud of the guys that weren't intimidated. Went out there and what is a very, very good to great Alabama team. Took them to the wire. Should have won the game, really. I didn't come away feeling, whereas like Arkansas lost, the Georgia loss, a couple of those close losses this year, I thought at the end the Gamecocks just weren't good enough. I think this was more about some mistakes at the end. Not that the Gamecocks beat themselves because when Brandon Miller scores 41 points, I mean, they obviously the Crimson Tide obviously did some things to win the game. Him in particular, but I thought just some bad shots. I thought GG sort of ran out of gas the second half. They always are going to need him. Hayden Brown fouling out was unfortunate, and I think that at the end of the day. It is something you can, take away and gain some confidence from, but it would have been better to shock the world. And that would have been a shocking upset, guys. I mean, that's the number 2 team in the net, I think, versus the number 243 team in the country with the net. And, I think too, if Lamont Paris had it to do over again, I think at the end, he's probably double teaming Brandon Miller and just making him pass the basketball to somebody else. And that's not to say somebody else couldn't beat them, but at that point, that guy is a special player. And I've, we know what's going on there legally with him. And, I understand the frustration with fans when you lose a game like that and you have a guy on the court that, depending on the school you're at or the scenario you're in, he may not even have to play. But it is what it is. And, the Gamecocks, I think, do have some things to build on. 2 guys, real quick, that I believe have been a key to Carolina getting better this year, and they have gotten better, are Jacoby Wright and Josh Gray. I think Josh still has a ways to go to develop his offensive game, but he's out there playing. He's out there rebounding. He's a presence on defense. I like that about him. I mean, when you're 7 feet tall, 270 pounds, I mean, man, you got some physical tools. And then Jacoby Wright's just been really smooth and confident in his shot. He's drilling shots, and he's grown as a player. I didn't think he was bad last year. I thought he was a freshman, a guy that came in, gave him some good minutes or whatever. Well, now you can start to see him get more confident. And he was a guy that in recruiting everybody sort of liked, in-state kid, all that. And I think those 2 guys are big because those aren't necessarily 2 that I would expect would hit the transfer portal. You never know, especially in basketball. But, I think they're going to get those guys back next year. And you can build, around some of those guys, Zach Davis, the freshman, Michi Johnson, I'm sure will come back or go to the league, but I don't think he's quite ready for the league because he's already transferred once. So you're kind of starting to see it. I talked earlier, looking for hope, right? With the basketball program, well, you're starting to kind of get hope because you look at some of these guys, and it's not just G.G. Jackson, who will probably not be here next year. It's some guys that are going to come back that if you play your cards right, hit the portal well, get some guys in there that can help. You could change the trajectory next season. And I think that's what most of us that follow this men's basketball program, it's a labor of love, has been over the years. We were rewarded one great March about 6 years ago, but those of us that follow this program, I think that's what we're always kind of looking for, is just hope. And last night did, in a lot of ways, give me hope about the future.
Well, they weren't supposed to win the game. They weren't supposed to be in the game. They had a chance to win it. They were certainly in it all night. The end of the game, wasn't a big fan of what happened there, having GG kind of launch. I mean, if you're going to have somebody launch a three, get the ball in Michi Johnson's hands. For God's sakes, he hit one at the end of the first half that he literally just stopped and popped from half court.
Yeah.
And they had a timeout to burn. I thought that was mismanaged there, unfortunately. Alabama, the play on which the Miller kid scored, you knew it was going to 24. You knew it was going to him. You knew it was going to him as the game continued to go along. When they needed points, that's where they were going. The switch didn't happen. Verdonk got his feet tangled up. He didn't get there in time, or else he would have been in position to maybe take a charge. And so obviously that was, I don't know if it was a mistake or just a misstep or what it was on defense. So those are
he's not that fast. I mean, he's not that quick.
No, he's not. I mean, to your point on Josh Gray, he's developed great. I love watching him play. I really do. He's probably my favorite kid to watch play. He's enjoying it finally, and it's awesome. Jacoby Wright. They did all this without Chico Carter, too, their best three-point shooter, technically, by percentage. He wasn't able to play last night. With all that said, I this is the first time I've said this, and I only say it when I mean it. Pretty disappointed in what I saw in the second half from G.G. Jackson. Just don't like it. I mean, look, he's maturing, okay? He's maturing, I think. I hope he needs to. When you have a half like you did in the first half, they're going to focus to shut you down in the second half. And Seth Greenberg said it last night, and he said it again, and you know what? He said it a third time. I was texting with Mike Morgan about this earlier. You have got to find other ways to impact the basketball game when they focus on you. That's what the great players do. All right. Clearly in the first half, it was personal for him, and I don't blame him. Freshman versus freshman, two of the top freshmen in the country. At one point in time, they were kind of going back and forth, trading buckets. That was neat and fun to see. It's very rare we see that in Colonial Life Arena, where Carolina presents a freshman that is in the same ballpark as one of the other elite players in the country. And you could tell it was like, hey, look, you can score, I can score. You can score, I can score. You could see it in the second half, gassed or not. You got to find ways to impact the basketball game. He did not do that defensively. He took lazy shots. There was multiple times where there was guys wide open, and he decided he was just going to take it in one-on-one without even passing the basketball. You can't do that, and you can or you cannot blame the game on that. At the end of the day, they lost by 2 points, and there was a few things that go into losing a game like that. I'm not blaming the loss on G.G. Jackson, but I'm saying that his impact in the second half was minimal, and I don't think he did a whole lot about it. There were times when he was going down the floor when he didn't get the ball, and you could see him visibly frustrated. Well, you might not get the ball every time because they're focused on you, and there's three other guys on the floor right now that are hitting shots, dude. Don't you want to score, or is it just about you scoring? I mean, so I was frustrated watching that. I don't like seeing that in any sport. It is about the name on the front. It is not about the name on the back. And for the first time all year, there was at least a piece of me watching him play where I was like, okay, that's enough. That's enough. I've had enough. If you can't score, you can defend. And that's one thing that we always saw out of Frank. And we know that Lamont teaches and preaches this too, and it's going to happen in his program. You will defend. Period. Like, you will defend or you won't play. And last night in the second half, at times, I felt he was very lethargic in what he was doing as a team basketball player. And that's unfortunate because they had a chance to pull one of the more stunning upsets that we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, it would have been, basketball upsets like that are pretty rare, especially, with a team like Alabama. Gosh, I guess I could compare it. Wake Forest one year was not that good. Bob Stack was coaching them. It was before Dave Odom even got there. And one night on the Jefferson Pilot ACC game of the week, that's why folks that are wondering why people in the upstate follow ACC basketball still, it's because it's all that was on. They went into Winston-Salem, North Carolina had an 80-65 lead and lost. And that was a shocking game because Wake finished last in the ACC. That's the only thing that came to mind. As far as Carolina goes, even that Devin Downey team that beat Kentucky, that was a losing team, but they were competitive. There were some games that could have gone either way. And then I started thinking, I was like, when have I seen anything like this? And I'd probably have to go back to like the George Felton era and say, well, I think like 90. Gamecocks had a lot of injuries, and they were 14-14, and Clemson won the ACC that year. Eldon Campbell, Dale Davis, that crew, David Young, you remember that? They went to the Sweet 16 and lost to Connecticut on the last-second shot. But the Gamecocks played Clemson twice during those days, and at the Coliseum, they beat them 54-53. Stephon Eggers, by the way, 18 points in that one. My memory's coming back. I can't remember like the recruits' names anymore, but I can remember that Stephon Eggers from Saukesty High School via Sweden or Germany or one of those places. One of them places over there, scored 18 in that game. And he didn't do much other than that during his career, but that would have been kind of up there with that because, a 500 team from the Metro Conference beating the ACC champs was something else, and certainly beating the second-ranked team in the country in your building. I mean, next to that Kentucky win, who was number one in the regular season, that's as big as it gets. So it's disappointing. I'm with you on Gigi. I think, and look, he's probably going pro regardless for reasons other than like just actual basketball performance. I think he's still good enough to go in the first round. I think that when you can do that, you can really change your trajectory financially, especially with the current collective bargaining agreement. And that's the whole reason he's at South Carolina now, or one of the major drivers was, North Carolina did not have room for him to come in early. So he can go to South Carolina, graduate high school early, and then declare and get to the NBA before the new collective bargaining agreement. And I think that's still the plan. But certainly it's a team sport. And when you don't play team basketball, you don't help yourself individually because you're sitting there trying to force things yourself when other guys are open. What you have to do is make people pay for it. It's just like football, or any sport. One guy's getting shut down. Well, that gives opportunity to someone else. Even in baseball, you protect you hear about people protecting the guy in the lineup. You know what I'm saying? One guy's getting kind of all the focus, the other guy before him or behind him can make up for it. So that was disappointing because it could have been for him last night. You look at the first half and you go, wow. But then in the second half, the takeaway is didn't put together. He was not anywhere close to Brandon Miller as far as the impact Brandon made on the game.
Polished.
And Brandon's also 20 years old. They're both freshmen, but Brandon's 2 years older than Gigi. Yeah,
huge difference.
But I think Mike or Seth Greenberg one compared him to Kevin Durant. It was one of those guys that was talking about. Yeah, that's exactly who he reminds me. 6'9", that plays like a point guard.
Plays downhill. I mean, he just keeps coming. He just keeps coming. I mean, that's Gigi hasn't learned that yet. He hadn't figured that. I'm not criticizing him, and I'm not a basketball coach either. Don't take me for some version of Coach K. It's not what I'm saying, but we do have eyes. We understand that. Like, good players attack, and he hasn't quite learned. If he had a little bit of the is attackability even a word like Michi kind of does, he'd be a more complete player. And so I don't want to turn this into this whole thing of just banging this kid because he is a good kid, but he's got a lot of growing up to do. And for those that want to continue to apologize, what about the rest of the dudes on that team? Never thought about that. There's a bunch of other kids out there that are playing their asses off for Carolina. And, here I am standing outside the 3-point line, and you're taking on 3 guys on a dribble. And I'm just standing here waiting. Hey, throw it into me. I can hit that shot. So there are other players on the team that, want to win too. They're trying to rebuild this program. And so I didn't like that. I really didn't. And, I hope that something changes. I don't know. I did see Lamont in practice the other day, said, hey, look, every year there's a team that's totally off the radar, that gets hot at the right time, makes a bunch of noise. Let's be that team. And I thought that was a really neat comment, so we'll see how they respond, because you got to go to Tennessee, which they never play well up there, and they certainly don't play well against Tennessee just in general because of the defensive pressure that they put on you, and the quote-unquote, as I just mentioned, team basketball that they play. Going into a game like that, coming off of a heartbreaker like Alabama, is going to be really difficult. So we'll see how Coach Parrish gets.
It's going to be I'd be shocked if it were close, but Tennessee's been kind of reeling, so they're going to need the win, right?
Yeah, they know what's
they're
coming.
Desperate. Yeah, yeah, they're a little desperate. You kind of hate that the last 3 games of the season have Tennessee at the beginning of the stretch, and you don't get to Georgia Saturday and then flip those around. That way you can continue to build some momentum. But yeah, I think the rug will be pulled out from under them up in Knoxville.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they unlike Rick Barnes teams are going to defend you. I mean, if you look at most of the teams Carolina's played this year that will get in your grill and defend you, Texas A&M, for example, 40-point loss. Tennessee is a 40-point loss. Teams like that, Carolina really has struggled. And I think to Vanderbilt's credit in the first half when they came into Colonial Life Arena, I thought they got out and guarded Carolina pretty well. I thought Arkansas, I guess, was a close game and they guard, but Tennessee's just a different level. Now, sometimes their games are ugly. I can see Carolina going up there and Tennessee can't hit the broadside of a barn and Gamecocks lose like 57-45, something like that. I can see that realistically, but they're always going to play. Rick Barnes' team's always going to play defense. Always going to have team basketball concepts, and just can't say enough good about the job he does. And you take your lick and hope that you can get some players in here and get the Gamecocks back up and rolling next year. But I did, just from the other guys, because I agree with you on Jackson. The other guys, I kind of got for the first time some hope, because these guys, like I said, Michi's coming back, Jacoby Wright's probably back. Josh Gray's back. Really, they liked what we're getting out of Daniel Hankins Sanford before. I guess he's hurt. You've got, Zach Davis played really well. True freshman. He's got a lot of upside. So there's a small nucleus there. And just like most years, it's going to depend on how they do with the portal.
Yeah, there's no question. No question. Tough loss last night for Carolina, and we'll see if they can continue to play well down the stretch. The good news is, as we all know, if you can get it through to your club, the slate is wiped clean once you get to the tournament. It's clean. It's a clean slate. You just got to go out and win a bunch of games. And
Carolina's going to have Tuesday, Wednesday game, and that I guess the tournament's in Nashville again this year, or is this one of the years it's off? They'll probably if Carolina can finish 11th or 12th, they'll be playing like a team that's like lower than them in the standings, and you win that one, and then you get a 5 or 6 seed, and who knows, and I've seen Frank Martin's team the year before they won 25 and went to the NIT where they got screwed, and I'll continue to always say it's a screw job. That team finished 17 and 16, but they got hot. It was one of the few times Frank Martin advanced in the SEC tournament. They got hot and went 2-1. Clinched that winning record. Would have been an NIT team had the rules not changed, and that kind of set them up for the next year where they went out and started winning. So I'm certainly not predicting that for this bunch because so much depends on the transfer portal. But I think that sometimes making a run late can facilitate confidence heading into that next season.
Yeah, it's all about the draw, as y'all know, in the league tournament. If you want to, the teams that you don't match up against, Tennessee, for instance, like you don't want to have to run into those guys in the second game or the third game. You want to make sure they have enough opportunities to get knocked off before you move on. You've beaten Kentucky. You've taken Alabama to the wire. Obviously, Alabama's got a bunch of stuff going on with their program they're trying to work through and things of that nature. So we'll see. But I'm not predicting anything. I don't want this to run itself over to that doofus with the Clemson Twitter account and all that, and everybody thinking I'm pumping sunshine. I'm not saying that.
Put you on the spreadsheet, man.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet.
All I'm saying is, we if there's a positive, that's a positive. They do have to go to the SEC tournament here in a couple of weeks and still go play basketball. The good news, though, is that the baseball team just continues to kind of, score runs. 12 more last night on the board against Queens College. So they are just pounding the baseball. I know there's a couple of ABs, a couple of guys like to have back, but they didn't allow a run. They did walk 6 guys, but sometimes those things happen in midweek games. These dudes have played 5 games in 6 days. They played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They had Monday off. They played Tuesday, Wednesday. They'll have today off, and they play 3 more this weekend. But nonetheless, Carolina is 5-0. Against the Queens Royals, which is a very interesting collegiate athletic name, if you ask me. But yeah, next up are the Penn Quakers, which I have been on that campus before. It's actually pretty nice, although it's in Philadelphia, which is not nice. But
Ben Franklin,
good win.
Ben freaking Franklin, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what somebody was talking about, Virginia. Like they're going through the ACC, like talking about the different campuses one day, and it's just like they got in Virginia and they're like Thomas F. and Jefferson. That was it. so for me, it's like Penn is like Ben F. and Franklin, man. Rock on.
Yeah.
Constitutional conviction. I don't know, man. Maybe not.
I love it. Penn's going to be the strongest club we played, in this early
part
of the season. They picked second, I think, preseason Ivy League. Should be a decent team.
They were pretty good last year, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Texas A&M in Aggie land.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to come in intimidated, right?
No, and to kind of set the stage, if you can get through it without any slip ups, and you got North Carolina A&T next Tuesday. Again, you coming up starting tomorrow. You got 4 games in 5 days again. You get through that, you get a couple of days off. Then you got the Clemson series. So you're 5-0 right now. You'd be 9-0 going into the Clemson series and in the top 20 somewhere. That's what you want. That's what you want. And then you go out and try to win that series, and then you kind of feel like you're off and running. With the Citadel and USC Upstate and so on and so forth following.
By the way, this is the season opener for Penn. They have not played a game yet. So.
Yeah, I think aren't they one of those teams that they open it a little bit later, maybe a week later, and they kind of take the Southern tour for a month before heading back up north?
Yeah, they got 3 in Carolina, and then they got next week they go to Lamar, which is in Beaumont, Texas, East Texas.
Yeah.
And then they go to Nickel. They go hit Louis after that. This looks like a separate road trip because next week, JB, they go Lamar, that's in Beaumont, Texas, East Texas toward New Orleans. They go to Nickel State, which is in Louisiana, and then Tulane for 3. So that's their March 3rd through 12th. And I would not be surprised if that was also maybe University of Pennsylvania spring break because it's an Ivy League school. And, we're not going to let our baseball team, Chiefs, go on a 9-game road trip down there where they sell crawfish. Eat crawfish, for God's sake. No problem, Carruthers. So I would guess that's spring break too. So you got 3 at Lamar, 2 at Nichols, 3 at Tulane. But this I think this one will kind of be like a fly down, fly back kind of
what's
or drive.
I know we got to hit a break, but what's really interesting? I just pulled up their schedule and I forgot about this. These Ivy League schools, they play double dips on Saturday, and then they play one on Sunday. And so like after that trip to Tulane, they go back after that. God bless them. They're never out of the Northeast again. Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, New York, yada, yada, yada. But they play the double dips. So they'll have Fridays off, and then they'll play, I think it's 2 7s on Saturday, and then mix in a 9 on Sunday before hitting the road wherever they go. So I've always found that weird. I don't like it. You're actually seeing a lot of that now, like in the SoCon. In places like that, I don't like it. I don't think it's good at all. You can't bring a guy back in game 2 that you only threw for 10 or 15 pitches in game 1. But it is pretty interesting. So we'll see what type of brand baseball they bring this weekend.
Yeah, should be. It's not going to be as easy, I think. Of course, I thought UMass Lowell could present some problems with the way they run the bases, and then Winthrop's always. It's probably not. My guess is not the strongest Winthrop team ever, but they've given the Gamecocks fits over the years too. So I mean, so it may not even matter. But I think that Penn's success last year at A&M probably that's a good for Mark Kingston, Monty Lee, Justin Parker, the coaching staff. Probably a good kind of like, hey guys, you don't want to lose to these guys because they're tough. Let's be on our A game a little bit better. I think sometimes it's good when a team like this has had some success that it kind of gets your guys' attention a little bit.
It is time for a timeout, I believe, right, Phil?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. We'll hit it. Chris
Gotta get it,
Phillips will be
Chris.
in here soon.
Okay. Yep. So we'll hit a quick timeout, and when we return, the host of the Spurs Up Show, Chris Phillips, joins us on Inside the Gamecocks of the show.
The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks!
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Gamecock Nation, JB here, and I'm here to tell you about my new favorite painting company, A Couple of Painters. These guys are the best. Gamecock fans and excellent painters, and by far the best and easiest quote I've received. They're licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia. They offer 10% off for military, repeat customers, or if you heard it on the show, commercial and residential painting, deck, fence, and cabin staining, cabinet and furniture refinishing. They'll even remove popcorn ceilings and wallpaper, and they offer pressure washing. Find them on Facebook or call 803-522-6832. A Couple of Painters, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
This is former All-American shortstop Drew Meyer, and you're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Go Gamecocks.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, brought to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call, 803-446-4662, to set up a no-obligation consultation about a potential backyard retreat for your home. And, of course, the first hour of the show is brought to you by Cindy Searfoss and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the upstate. Cindy's in Spartanburg, waiting for your call at 864-414-5271 for all your upstate residential real estate needs. And it's Thursday, so what does that bring us on the McKellar Enterprises guest line? None other than Chris Phillips for a high-energy segment. Chris, how you doing? Baseball looking good? Heartbreak on the court last night? I mean, could have been better. I guess 2 points away from a win, so that everybody would have won. But hey, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, no, a thrilling ball game last night. JC, JB, Phil, what's going on? JC, your hair looks fantastic, my friend.
I know, it's amazing.
Phenomenal. I saw a couple of days ago, I was like scrolling through Twitter and I saw the live show feed pop up and I was like, look at JC. I think it's the same reaction too, though, when I don't wear a hat. It's just like, it's got to keep people on their toes. But no, I mean, last night
he looks like a different person when he didn't wear a hat. I'm not used to him ever.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I feel like when I go play golf. When I wear a golf polo and I'm like this, I kind of feel like a different human being. But whatever. Anyways, man, it was a thriller last night. Unfortunately, we've sort of become numb to the heartbreak, I think. But it's interesting and not trying to like wear garnet glasses, but I really came away from the game encouraged, to be honest with you, because I didn't have high hopes or expectations. I thought Alabama was going to come in and kind of have their way. So to see South Carolina, I just feel like, there's glimpses of hope. You're looking for positives. You're trying to draw positives from year one and Lamont Paris and what he's building. And I think maybe it's a game like last night that you can kind of look at and say, okay, like, this is Lamont Paris can do this here. If he's taking the guys he has on this roster right now and putting together that kind of effort. And I think, again, is the bar low? Certainly, sure, whatever. But, the guys haven't quit on the season, and he's keeping them getting after it and playing well, and you'll have one more opportunity to win on your home floor, obviously, against Georgia next weekend. But, certainly a tough one, man. And I didn't have a great feeling when it went to overtime. You just kind of felt like the better team's probably going to win. But, again, kudos to them. It felt like every single time I felt like, okay, this is going to be the moment Alabama pulls away. South Carolina just doesn't have the horses. I mean, you kept fighting, right? Michi Johnson would hit a big Jacoby Wright would hit a big shot. G.G. Jackson, Hayden Brown, you'd get a big stop defensively. So, it was heartbreak. It was really tough. We can talk the whole – and I didn't spend a ton of time talking about the whole Miller situation because the bottom line is he played. It doesn't matter what we say. He played. A tough one for sure. But I was proud of the effort and the resiliency in the fight. And then, like you said, man, on the diamond, I mean, who could have seen this coming, right? The team hitting 374. Just an incredible start of the season. The pitching's phenomenal. Everything is good. So far, so good. And it's going to be a really fun weekend against the Penn Quakers. I think will be your best or your stiffest challenge of the season thus far. Going to be a lot of fun at Founders Park this weekend, but a great start for sure on the diamond.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think you made a good point because there was a couple of times later in the game last night when Bama would go up 4. And I thought that's where, man, if they hit a 3, if I can keep my screen from going green, I could finish one of these conversations. I don't know if I've been hacked or what the hell's going on here.
St. Patrick's Day, man. It's a leprechaun.
That's what's coming up.
I want the green. I want the green on the screen now.
I'm going to go back to the Sarge and see if this will work. I kept thinking, well, if Carolina doesn't go down and kind of respond here and they come back and this 24, the Miller kid pops a 3, it's you'll probably start to feel the energy because there was energy in that building. It was neat to see the students, but they didn't let that happen. And I think JC, you pointed out earlier, there's a lot of development going on the floor. I'm not going to speak for G.G. Jackson right now. I mean, I know he's developed. But you can see development in Jacoby Wright. You can see it in Josh Gray. You can see it this year in Chico, even though he didn't play last night. Michi has come a long way with just how he's handling the basketball team. I mean, technically this team should be on his shoulders, and he's come a long way. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Chris, what I'm really interested to see is how Coach Paris will get these guys up off the mat because it's not like the next game is Ole Miss or LSU. They got to go to Knoxville, and this is a bad matchup for them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. The 11th ranked Volunteers, but no, to your point, man, I've loved to see the evolution of a guy like a Jacoby Wright, Josh Gray. I mean, this is kind of the guy we've been waiting on him to be for a couple of years, and not speaking to the previous regime. Obviously, Frank Martin did a great job in Columbia, but I'm not sure we really saw that, or maybe that's one of those things that we were just kind of waiting to see. And so, again, I think you got to give credit to Lamont Paris. You also think that this season, having the guts to bench a guy like a G.G. Jackson, and it looks like it's played out really, really well. I thought G.G. definitely had that chip on his shoulder last night because of the whole matchup with he and Walker on the Alabama side, kind of proving I'm the best freshman, which again was a ton of fun to watch. But again, like you mentioned, JB, I just look and I think there are positive signs, and there's a long way to go, right? He's got to build out his roster, and I'm sure they'll hit the portal once again, what have you, and try to gather the pieces. And I don't know exactly how far away South Carolina basketball is, but again, it is performances last night that make me feel optimistic that Paris can get this thing rolling. And once he builds out this roster a bit, like you said, we've seen the development and we're starting to maybe see some improvement. And certainly you'd like to see that translate into wins. And you're right, responding, right? Because you can, if you come away dejected and you hang your head, and you don't need to allow Bama to beat you twice. Tennessee can beat you without any help, right? So that's going to be a tough game, obviously, at their place. But, it'll be interesting to see how you close out the season. And going in the SEC tournament, I think South Carolina could actually be a scary team, if you will. Could be a dangerous team. So you got to try to pull those positives from year one. But, all in all, I will say seeing the evolution of a Jacoby Wright has been a lot of fun. That's a guy that I've loved watching the games that he got on campus. And, to see him hit big shot after big shot last night was incredible. So, it'll be interesting to see how they close out the season, and certainly Saturday in Knoxville, what will be a really, really tough game.
JC, by the way, has this new tactic of when he hears something he doesn't agree with, he just dumps out and waits on you to finish.
I hear you.
I'm not sure what you said that pissed him off, but
I'm reserving mine for later.
Yeah, he just basically. Oh yeah, but no,
easy.
No, I actually agree with Chris completely because it like the word hope, because I've just been lacking it about the whole men's basketball program the whole year. It's frustrating as all get out to see them beat a team like Clemson, and Clemson is a good basketball team this year. And then turn around and gets waxed by 3 straight mid-majors, right? So what?
I'm just laughing at Phil. Phil's like a snake, man. He's there. And
I got that.
He slithers, and you're like,
but no, but I think when you look, and it hit me last night, I was like, this is Jacoby Wright really started playing better about 3 or 4 games ago, and hitting shots. He's confident in his shot. He was a pretty relatively highly regarded recruit, when Frank got him. I think a lot of times in basketball, we rush guys, if they're supposed to be good. If they're not good as freshmen, we just kind of toss them away. But he's come on. You mentioned Josh Gray. I think this offseason for him is going to be huge in terms of developing more of an offensive game around the rim. But, hey, he couldn't do much of anything. He couldn't even grab a rebound last year at 7 foot 270. So he's hitting the boards, and that's step one to your foundation. And then, of course, Michi Johnson doesn't have another transfer, so I can't see him hitting the portal or going pro. I think he'll be back next year. That's the catalyst. So you're starting to look at it. Zach Davis has done some nice things, and you're starting to look at it and go, hey, if they can get 3 or 4 guys out of the portal and hit on them, they're good basketball players.
Yeah.
And then you got the transfer from Coastal who had to redshirt this year or whatever with the injury. Maybe you could put something together. And I think playing well down the stretch of this season, Chris, and see if you agree with me or not, as we've talked about before on your show and here, could help get the nucleus of this team more confident. That way when Lamont goes and gets some help for these guys, you have that core leadership that it facilitates through that, and it'll be a more confident basketball team taking the court next season.
Yeah, JC, to your point, hope is not a strategy, but without hope, you have nothing, right? So to have some glimmers of hope, and I think, too, what people don't give enough credit to is the challenge of a first-year coach to get a bunch of guys to believe in him that, he didn't recruit them. He's not really even familiar with them at all. I think that's one of the things when we talk about Shane Beamer that I think people don't even give enough credit to is the fact that he does what he's doing with guys that they didn't have a pre-existing loyalty to him, right? And they could have just wandered anyway. And instead of doing that, they buy into what he's preaching, buy into the culture. And again, that's something that I think you got to give a lot of credit to. And you're seeing that buy-in. I don't think you hang around with an Alabama unless you have a bunch of guys that believe in what Paris is preaching, if you will. And of course, when you have a guy like G.G. Jackson, it helps with immense talent. And the goal is to get more guys like that. But like you mentioned, it gives you that hope. It does give you that hope. And I think, JC, you brought up the point that Lamont Paris told Derek Scott, I think, that we could have hit the portal harder. I don't think that should be an issue this time around. I think that should be a learning lesson, and they should absolutely hammer the transfer portal for all the top talent they can get, because it certainly benefits a school like South Carolina. But no, it does give you hope moving forward that you can continue to make progress. And I don't think I think something that maybe benefits Lamont Paris is the expectations are going to be very fair. Obviously Frank Martin was dismissed because the expectations were higher than one tournament in a decade, but I don't know how much higher they really are. And I'm saying that I don't think next year is going to be NCAA tournament or bust. So he's going to have an opportunity to have a ramp up period. And nobody's going to be expecting you to win the SEC next year. But if you just continue to make progress, add good players, again, like you said, you bring back a great nucleus as well of a couple of those guys that are making contributions late. Again, hope is that key word. I think it does give you hope going into year 2 of his tenure.
Yeah, you mentioned Derek. Derek told me before the season, I was up in Columbia. He said Josh Gray is literally one of the nicest people he's ever met in his life. He said he's like a big teddy bear, and if he could get meaner, it would benefit him well. Well, he has gotten meaner. You could see it out there on the floor. I'll tell you what else is mean, Chris.
He's from Brooklyn, New York. How's he not mean?
Well, it didn't make any sense.
He's from New York. He's from the city.
I agree with you. Me and Matt Campbell were sitting there. Matt looked at Derek and was like, mean. The kid's 7 feet tall. He's 300 pounds almost. How soft can he get? He said, he's a pretty nice kid. So we
only at South Carolina do you recruit a 7-footer from New York City.
Yeah,
this is the nicest guy ever. Hey, what's up?
Chris Silva, give him a basketball BB gun, he'd turn him around quick. Speaking of mean, Gamecock bats have been hurting feelings for about a week now. 20 home runs have left the yard after last night's game. It is probably the most difficult stretch so far this year, with Penn coming in this weekend. But we've had a lot of conversations that all actually end the same over the last couple of weeks, Chris. We've talked to Coach Kingston. We've talked to Monty. We talked to Coach Lake yesterday. We talked to Wingo. And all of them, when they describe the offense, you look out there and you see it. They're all saying it in their way of saying it, but it's the same offense that they're describing, and how the approach is a little bit different and all those type of things. So, kind of compare and contrast what you've seen early this year versus what you've seen early in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the approach is definitely different in a positive way. And you look at this weekend against Penn, JB, I think you bring up a great point. This will be the best competition you face at this point. And I don't want to anoint Penn or anything like that, because you're going to get into the SEC, which is the best of the best. But you look at the Quakers, they had an RPI that floated in the high 40s, low 50s last season, took 2 of 3 against Texas A&M to open the season. A Texas A&M team that went to Omaha. They actually return – per D1Baseball.com, the preseason pitcher of the year, and who I think will go tomorrow for them in the Southpaw, Owen Cody. They've also got Wyatt Hensler, who's their third baseman, who was a third-team All-American last year. They're projecting him as the player of the year in the Ivy League. They had 10 guys named to the All-Ivy League team last year. 6 of those return. Basically, their entire infield, except their second baseman, is back. So they're a veteran ball club, and they'll come into Columbia expecting to win. I think what's interesting, too, this will be opening day for Penn tomorrow. They haven't played a game yet. But back to the approach, JB, when you look at that, I think to Kingston's credit, a lot of what he said in the preseason, I'm sure what he said to you guys, it's come to fruition. I mean, it just looks like a lineup full of veteran dudes. It looks like a bunch of guys. They're not fazed by the stage. They have a plan. I'm seeing a lot of calm approaches. I'm not seeing the guys swing at a lot of bad pitches. I feel like guys are getting their pitch, and when they do get it, and if the pitcher makes a mistake, they're hammering it. They're not missing very often, right? But it's a lot of under control swings. Again, it feels like guys are going up there with a plan, and we'll see as the competition ramps up, right? It's much tougher to have a plan against Paul Skeens throwing 99 miles an hour, Florida Sunday guy throwing 97, and that's when you make the adjustment. That's, guys, one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to or looking for in the Penn series, because to your point, JB, again, the approaches have been have been so great to this point. The patience, I think, is what really stands out to me. And I think that's the biggest difference because, some people look at this group and they say, it's 2021 all over again with the 20 home runs, but it just doesn't feel the same, does it? Like, I feel like it's not this feast or famine approach, right? South Carolina, they're working counts. They're getting on base. I mean, you look, I think I've got the numbers pulled up here, 36 walks. And you've been hit by pitches 19 times. You're 510 on base percentage. So, I mean, you think about it, you're getting guys on. I've seen a lot of 2-out hitting. I've seen situational hitting, just a lot of things we hadn't seen in the past, right? And again, that comes from guys like a Will McGillis who have been on the stage before, Gavin Cassis, who has played SEC baseball before, guys that are a year older in your LeCroys and Messinas and Hornungs, and it just looks like a much more older, mature group of hitters. But against Penn, right, you're not going to score double digits every single game. It's just unrealistic. I just want to see the consistency in the approach. That's what I'm looking for, right? Because you don't need to score 10 runs a game. Your pitching staff's pretty damn good, too. They've been overshadowed their start of the season because the offense has been so good. But I just want to see consistency in the approach. Don't get out of yourself. Don't try to do too much. Again, stay consistent, drive the baseball gap to gap. The home runs are going to come. You play in a ballpark that's built for it, and you got a bunch of big, strong kids that have power. So, so far, so good. I mean, it's been an incredible start. Consistency in the approach is what I want to see. But, you couldn't have drawn up a better start for the Bats for sure.
Well, and to kind of tack on to what you were saying, the 55 combined HBPs and walks only struck out 33 times. So you're talking about 22 times on more that you've been on base via the walk or HBP, which I can only imagine what Scott Wingo's thinking down there at third base, versus 33 times you've had to walk back to the dugout with really without doing anything productive. I mean, that's how you score runs. I mean, and you're going to have that all year. It doesn't matter who you play. You have to have that throughout the season.
Yeah. I mean, patience. Yeah. Patience is a big, like you mentioned 2021, Chris, to me, and see if you agree, that 2021 team, Wes Clark was crushing it out of the yard, and they had guys that could hit that, but an awful lot of strikeouts, even after that hot start, hitting the long ball, I thought.
And I think that's what's going to pay off in SEC play, right? Because, scoring these gaudy numbers, it's not about beating UMass Lowell. It's not about beating Winthrop, Queens. It's not even about beating Penn. All due respect to everybody you play. It's about showing positive signs that will carry over into SEC play. And so getting guys on base, stealing bases, being productive at the plate, no matter the situation, right? The home runs are going to be there. You play at South Carolina, right? Like, you have power. You have the ability to drive the baseball. You're probably not on this roster if you can't do that. But when you're not hitting home runs, being productive and finding ways to score and finding ways to win. I've also seen JB and guys, I've seen South Carolina take advantage. Hey, when a team makes an error, they walk a guy, you punish them. And that's what you should do as a group of hitters, right? And in the SEC, that'll be at a premium. You face a guy like a Skeens. I keep mentioning his name, but because LSU's the talk of college baseball. But you face these big-time Friday night guys, it's going to be tough to score runs. You're not going to score double digits. You might have to win a game 2-1. So when a guy gives up a walk, they make an error, you got to be able to take advantage of it, get him over, get him in, what have you. And so, again, I'm excited for what we've seen. Again, it'll be really interesting this weekend to see the competition ramp up a little bit. But I have picked the sweep because, guys, the good news is this. Even if you don't score 10 runs, I mean, this pitching staff's been lights out. I mean, they're as good as advertised. And, I think they'll do it again this weekend. So, but it's been a lot of fun to see the sticks. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Monty Lee and Mark Kingston. The approaches have obviously, there's been an adjustment made there, and it's paying off major dividends early.
1.4 team ERA, 1.4.
Yeah. Oh,
and limiting the walks. That is the big
limiting
the walks.
The leadoff, Tommy Moody hates leadoff walks. That's just one thing I noticed about him.
Leadoff walks, 2-out walks, a cardinal sin.
Not a lot of them. All right, Chris, we know you got to roll and get on. I'll see you at 1:15, bud.
Absolutely. JC, Phil, JB, always a pleasure, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
I'll take it.
All right, we got to hit a break. Come right back to wrap up hour number 1 of Inside the Gamecocks, the show. I'm JC. He's JB. He's Phil. That was Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show, and we'll be back after these messages.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Oh, easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
You better hang on, too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the 3rd best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese, took third in a contest exclusively for products made in the state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist.
We're well into the new year, and the days of being back in the pool and boat are quickly approaching. Many of us don't have the time to hit the gym, but Charleston Fitness Equipment can change that for you. Outfit your home with a treadmill, elliptical, or my favorite, a home rower that allows you to row with the pros all over the world. They have free weights, home gyms, flooring, and much more that makes keeping or getting in shape much more convenient. Located in Mount Pleasant, visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com for more. Get in shape like our Gamecocks. Charleston Fitness Equipment, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the soul.
All right, 11:55 towards the end of hour one, hour two coming up. The Mental Edge with Sawyer Nix will be in that. If you want to have a makeover in your home, maybe you've got a Gamecock room or are wanting to have a Gamecock room, you need to hop on Facebook and check out a couple of painters. Like, don't find two painters. I mean, like the business, a couple of painters. They paint our show, Garnet and Black Daily. They will paint your room garnet and black. And right now they're doing a giveaway to do so. On March 1st is when they're going to select a winner. If you're in South Carolina, if you're in Georgia, you qualify for this because that's where they're licensed and insured. The whole state, not just parts, the entire state. So if you're on Facebook, make sure you pull up a couple of painters and you'll see the link at the top of the page. Message them with your name, phone number, and email. And they will let somebody know here in just a few days who the winner is. So really excited for that. Garnet, black, white, whatever color you want it to be. But someone's going to win a Gamecock room makeover, and we really appreciate these guys painting our show, Garnet and Black. Facebook. And then, of course, their website is LetMePaintSomething.com, Lemme, LetMePaintSomething.com. All right, I know we only got a couple of minutes, JC. We got here in the Nana Sports chat box, he says, Saunders says, Vance Joseph got hired as DC for the Broncos. Can anyone think of a situation like that in college football? Fired as head coach, come back as a coordinator later on. Yeah, it happens at Alabama about every year.
They recycle them down there pretty good in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Nick Saban, if you're a fired head coach, generally you're going to land on his staff somewhere as an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator.
We mentioned Wade Phillips too. Look, how many jobs did Norv Turner have? Now, Vance Joseph, so college football, it's harder to get back in. I mean, Will Muschamp and Ed Orgeron are like outliers, and a lot of schools, it hadn't always worked out when you rehire somebody that's been fired someplace else. It didn't work out with Muschamp at Carolina. I sort of thought it would. The reasons were different. It worked out at LSU for Orgeron for 1 year, and then he was just like, "Oh, well, I think I'm going to go to the beach and enjoy this." Ron Zook took Illinois to the Rose Bowl and then got fired because he had been fired. Jerry DiNardo took the Indiana job after getting fired at LSU. So I just can't.
It happens.
I just can't think of somebody that now look, Tom Herman hadn't gotten back in. I tend to believe Tom Herman at the right program can win large. Sure. I'm stupid. Guys, just go ahead and say it. I'm stupid. Phil, say it.
All right, JC, you're stupid.
Maybe do it. Because I completely forgot. I completely forgot, like, well, who played for the national championship last year, because Sonny Dykes got fired at Cal.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Now that was a fish out of water job he took. I mean, I can't imagine that dude fitting in Berkeley at all. I mean, I have a better shot of fitting in out there than him.
You're a moron.
At least I looked the part. So I'm a moron about that. But no. Here is one. He got fired and then came back and did a good job. But yeah, I mean, it is now in the pros. They'll give a guy 3 or 4 shots. They'll give a guy 3 or 4 chances before they.
Yeah, but his question here: fired as head coach and come back as a coordinator later on, which is what I was
in the pros.
Obviously, Muschamp's done that. No. And can you think of a situation like that in college football? That's what I was saying. It happens.
Oh yeah, man, lots. Yeah, Bobby Petrino is an example.
Mike Bobo.
Of that. Mike Bobo. There's a lot of examples like that, Sonder. Barry Odom, who's now got his second life at UNLV, but obviously went from Missouri to Arkansas. Yeah, Sonder, there's a lot of examples in college football of guys that were head coaches that go back to being coordinators.
Oh, the same.
I'm sorry, with the same organization.
Oh.
Well, that speaks to the fraternal nature of coaching in the NFL. I think.
That's not normal. I mean, you don't ever see that. This is probably the only time I've ever seen that. Have you ever seen this before in any level? I haven't.
Same organization. When you're the head, you're the head coach and come back as a
basically getting demoted, essentially. I've never seen that.
Has anybody ever come back?
Because you got like the Dom Capers experiment happening again in Carolina, but he was never the head coach. It was, he's coming back.
Dom was the head coach.
Was he? Oh, was he?
He was the first head coach. The first.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Now he's back in DC.
Before you were born, Phil.
Thomas Brown's the offensive coordinator there now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to think, like, who else? It's not. I haven't come back and be the coordinator after being the head coach. I'm trying to think of who else been fired at that same school
or in the NFL. I haven't seen it in the NFL either. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's weird.
In baseball, I haven't seen it in basketball. We'll have to think about it. I know we got to hit a break, so why don't we hit a break?
Well, we put our heads together and see what we can.
We don't want to put you're an idiot. We don't want your head involved in this.
Complete idiot.
Remember, you're stupid.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting there running my liquor about, or my chopper or whatever you want to call it.
Your liquor.
Sorry about that.
Running liquor.
Sorry about that. Anyway, shoo, buddy. Running about like, these guys it never works out. Rarely works out.
Sonder, you screwed us all up here, man. You got to give all the information when you ask a question.
One of these guys actually, played for the national championship last year. So that's why I'm an idiot. All right, it's just a good time for a break. It's a good time.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll be right back with Stupid JC.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on 2 wheels. The home of Oventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Lowcountry. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show. The real estate market has changed dramatically from just a year ago. Rates, supply, demand, all of your traditional factors are in a transition phase. That's why if you or someone you know are considering making a move in the Lowcountry, contact me, JB, at Coast to Coast Realty. I work with an outstanding support cast of attorneys, lenders, inspectors, insurance agents, and more, all of whom are valuable in helping find a way for you to comfortably make your real estate decision. That's right, call me, JB, your Lowcountry real estate broadcaster. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington, half-hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
You're tuned into Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Sideline is picked off. Brad Edwards will get a convoy. Touchdown, South Carolina.
Spurs, Spurs. top of the coop, star of the show, you're a rooster who was born to crow. Well, I bet you wonder when you win or lost a step or two.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Brought to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call or shoot him an email, 803-446-4662, or John B. at expresssunrooms.com to set up an appointment to talk about how we can get some more sunshine into your life this summer. And I continue to think about that question that we went into during the break, and I'm just not, I don't know.
There isn't anybody else that
I can't think of it.
At least in my generation.
Yeah, I can't think of anything either. It makes sense. Yeah, Vance played at Colorado, so he's probably got an affinity for living in Denver, although he's a Louisiana native from Marrero, New Orleans area. So, maybe he just likes the Rockies. Let's go hang out with Prime, because Prime's in that town too. My God, have you heard him talking about like what he looks for and
Well, he's in Boulder now.
Yeah, I know. Well, Boulder's a suburb of Denver. I mean, it's right there. It's not what I would call extremely close, but it's the general vicinity. So I don't know. But yeah, Prime's been just running, just dropping like truth. I don't even know if I want to call them truth bombs because they're kind of stereotypical, quite frankly, insulting things to certain people out there about, I want my quarterback to have two parents in the house and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no matter what you feel about the positivity of two parents in the house, there are plenty of quarterbacks that have one parent. Dak Prescott comes to mind. Speaking of people from Louisiana, that he was fine. So Prime's going to get in trouble. Continuing on that, but yeah. So yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not one that gets outraged or insulted by, people speaking their truth or anything like that. I certainly wouldn't want to cancel them over it. But I think you're limiting yourself because you can recruit. You could be, hey, I'm Deion Sanders and I'm going to recruit this kid all you want. But what if a kid you really want's life situation is exactly how you described what you don't want? And you end up missing that player. What if a kid in Denver who's grown up dreaming of playing for the Colorado Buffaloes and watched you play at Florida State and in the pros, or knows who you are and has always admired you? What if he comes from a single parent home and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and then you lose him to Oregon or somebody and they come in and beat you like 63-7? Your lesson will be learned. Lesson will be learned.
Speaking of lessons learned, another Georgia Bulldog has been arrested. All SEC linebacker Jamon Dumas Johnson is in the tank because really
drag racing
about 6 weeks ago. Yeah, it was the day after the national. Boy, they won the national championship. You had that terrible car wreck that one of their offensive linemen died in, and one of the equipment managers, she passed away. And then you had another equipment manager and another offensive lineman who's Brian McClendon's nephew survive it. And then the day after that, this kid was street racing in Athens, and he got popped for it, but he just got arrested yesterday. It looks like they just ID'd him. So he's in the slammer for a little while. It's the off season in Athens, so we'll probably expect a little bit more of this over the next couple of months or whatever. But I'm going to ask, and I'm asking this question honestly. I'm not. I know that's a running joke because there are a lot of Bulldogs that get arrested every year, but I'm asking this question honestly. Are Athens, Athens Clark County, right? Are Athens Clark County police officers just like sticklers of everything? Because I've spent some time there, and I've seen some dudes get popped, and I'm like, for what did he do? He didn't even do anything. Like, are they just that bad, or what is it? Or
if it were Columbia, I mean, people would be going ape if it were Columbia or something. It's been that way. I don't understand it. Because you look around, and certainly other schools have arrests and things like that, but like every year, and I don't think it's like Georgia recruiting low character kids. I think you look at kind of. I mean, I covered a lot of these guys in recruiting. They're good kids. I mean, it seems like every little ticky tack thing that you can take a football player to jail for in Athens,
they take them.
They do. Blind Squirrel Sports is our resident dog fan.
Yeah, I was going to say,
in the chat box. He has a conspiracy theory about And you'd have to explain this to me, how Tom Crean played a role in Todd Monken being hired by the Ravens. Is it because Crean has some kind of connection to the Harbaugh family? Is that it?
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out. Crean, of course, is the failed former Georgia basketball coach. So
It was a successful one at Marquette. Oh, wow.
and it didn't do terrible at Indiana, but everybody he's related to Harbaugh. So yeah. Jim Harbaugh. So John Harbaugh is his brother-in-law. So yeah, that probably makes sense. Yeah, I kind of thought that was it, blind squirrel. So yeah, hey, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory because you always pick up the phone. If you're looking for another gig, John Harbaugh probably calls up. He's like, "Hey, what's who do we know at Georgia?" Yeah, let's call Tom Crean. Tom's not doing anything. He's having a cocktail out by the pool. Hey, doesn't Todd Monken live in your neighborhood? Yeah, bro. Hey, why don't you go see if he wants to come coach here? All right. Well, hey, I got a tanning bed appointment here in about 10 minutes in my house because Tom Crean's got a tanning bed in his house. There's no way
he's got to have one. Yeah,
he and Nick Saban both. I think people are just scared to say it about Nick Saban, but Todd Monken. Tom Crean definitely has a tanning bed in his house, and he's like, all right. Well, after I tan, I'll go see Todd. Maybe he wants to come over and tan with me, and we can have a couple of pina coladas and sit out here and listen to John Cicada on full blast and hammer something out. We'll get you on Zoom, John.
That's right. Now, Saban's got a lady that comes in for spray tan, brings the booth and everything. Doesn't he and Miss Terry both get the works?
All right. I'm gonna get butt naked. All right. This really pisses me off. All right.
You ever seen the Friends episode where Ross went to get this spray tan? 2, 3.
Yet another reason I hate Ross. Right. My fiance stunned that I'm not like this big Friends guy because like when I was a kid and I was like very much skinnier, you could probably see it if you look close. So some people thought I looked a little like Matthew Perry. Okay, not anymore. Well, Matthew Perry's seen better days, just like yours truly here. So anyway, maybe so. But so everybody's like shocked because you have Jennifer Aniston, whatever. And I like Ross just drove me up a tree, and the fact that they ended it with him doing this, I'm going to go to the airport and see my Rachel. Oh my God, because he screwed the whole thing up to begin with. She should have been with Joey. That's it. I stopped at that point. I told my ex-wife at the time because it was the late 90s, 2000s when the show was wrapping. I was like, you mean to tell me Rachel's not still with Joey? No, they broke up a couple of episodes ago, and it's just I'm like, oh God, she's gonna end up with Ross, and she was. So that makes me hate him even worse. He's a whiny little. Even in the reunion, Matthew Perry's sitting there on all kinds of whatever, just fresh out of rehab or whatever. He looks like crap. Joey's totally gray. Jennifer Aniston somehow never ages. I don't know.
No.
I don't know how that is. But then here comes Ross, the same David Schwimmer, just whining, just whined his way through. So it doesn't surprise me he gets the spray tan, like Tom Crean and Nick Saban.
All right. Our nation is now boundlessly vanitized.
I don't know how there's so many guys that constantly break it off with Jennifer Aniston. Doesn't make any sense to me.
She's probably a terrible person.
Maybe that's what it. There's got to be.
It's like you get to a point, the fun's over. It's like you read the Ferris wheel so many times. It's thrilling to begin with. It gets boring, so you need some comfort in that Ferris wheel seat, or you're going to get off of it. Right? It hurts your buttocks.
Yeah,
maybe she's got like a
it may be fun,
or something like that. That you just
I'll sit in a hard Ferris wheel seat, the old school Ferris wheels. The wind's blowing, you feel like you're going to fall or whatever. I'll sit there for a while, but eventually, I'm going to need one of those enclosed things like they got in Pigeon Forge.
where you're in the little gondola thing or whatever.
The gondola, so some comfort. I'm going to need some comfort there. So she's probably like riding an old school Myrtle Beach Pavilion style Ferris wheel. Back in the day, not the big one they got in front of Beach now. The other ones, the smaller ones, where the wind's blowing and that SOB like sits there and creaks, and you're like, I'm gonna fall. I hate the Ferris wheel, by the way. Hate it. Don't like it.
Yeah, I don't.
So
like
Jennifer Aniston is a carnival ride.
Yeah, that's what I got out of that too.
The Tilt-A-Whirl. Scrambler, baby.
Yeah. Between that and the story of how Tom Munkin got to Baltimore, I've got all kinds of knowledge to share with the world after we get off the air today.
Blame Blind Squirrel for that one. He's the one that brought it to my attention.
Where is Blind Squirrel? Because we were asking about Athens, and he's gone silent on us.
He switched over to Inside the Dogs, the show.
Trying to get it figured out.
Trying to figure this out.
The moment that we mentioned one of the dogs getting arrested is when he disappeared from the chat box.
Chris in the chat box goes, I would like one ticket for that carnival ride, please.
I was going to say, I mean, yeah.
If it's an old school carnival, man, it's probably going to cost you like $8.
Yeah,
the ride all day. Yeah, or you got to have to get the ride all day.
That's right.
$49.95. Get the wristband.
All day.
This entire sheet of tickets.
Give me a sheet of tickets. The balloon pop dart thing.
I did have I had somebody who popped into my inbox a couple of days ago. Not to totally, not to take this conversation away from you all as much fun as we're having here, but I had somebody, and I figured I'd pass this one along to you, JC, because I haven't checked, I haven't asked, and I haven't heard. I got a feeling, of course, here in about a month we'll be hearing much more. But somebody did reach out to me the other day and said, "Hey, look, we know about Spencer Rattler, we know about Luke Doty. Everybody is constantly talking about the Bailey kid. Lenora Sellers is a hot name." He said, "I feel like I haven't heard the name Colton Gauthier in over a year. What have you heard about him?" I haven't heard anything, but I actually also have not asked anything. They're going to carry a boatload of talented quarterbacks into spring practice. It just seems, and I'm not saying this is going to be Colton in any way, shape, or form. It just seems like when you carry a lot of quarterbacks, generally one or two are going to end up deflecting at some point in time, guys. What are your thoughts on Colton Gauthier, and what are your thoughts on the number of talented quarterbacks they'll have in spring practice?
Well, like skill set wise, when he came out of high school, it reminded me of like just skill set wise to keep before everybody goes, terrible comparison. No, wait. Out of high school, Charlie Whitehurst had one offer or two, maybe Clemson and North Carolina. Ended up going to Clemson. But he was that taller, skinnier kind of guy like Colton, and his arm, their arm talent reminds me of each other. But Charlie also playing quarterback, as we all know, you can throw it all you want, be tall all you want, and be a good athlete all you want. But if you can't read a defense, you don't know where to throw it, and you crack under pressure. My point is, I'm not saying Colton does that. I'm saying there's more to it than just skill set wise. That's what I thought. It was like under the radar guy out of Georgia. I was like, he's got a chance. It's just a chance. Now, last year, probably if they'd had to go to a third quarterback, they would have gone with DeCarrion Joyner. If it had gotten beyond him, Colton's probably playing before Tanner Bailey or Braden Davis.
Yeah.
But Bailey's been there a couple of years now, and based on what I heard about Lenora Sellers, that dude may be on a faster track than we could have ever imagined. So I would say, it's a big spring for Colton. But at the same time, some guys just the quarterback stick. And Michael Scarnecchia, nobody ever thought he would play. And then he stuck with it and went out, took advantage of his one shining moment, and was by the time his senior year got there, he was pretty good. Dylan Thompson waited for a while too, and finally got there. And Dylan was sort of a little like Colton, like the taller guy with a good arm. So you never know, but like, would I project that right now? No, not based on what I know, but we've got a couple of weeks, and we'll see. I mean, there's a new quarterbacks coach in town, Dowell Loggins. Hey, and we'll see what he thinks about him. But there's just a lot, and you hit the nail on the head, JB. There's so many quarterbacks on the roster right now that have a chance, a real good chance, and it's going to be interesting to see how they sort it out. I don't think South Carolina is going to be able to escape losing one or two along the way because no schools have avoided that. honestly, wait till after spring ball. I think Georgia may lose one. Vandergriff or dare I say Gunnar Stott, although Gunnar Stotton's guy is his
I don't think he's
OC quarterback.
I think Vandergriff.
If maybe Vandergriff goes someplace. So, but no, and Ohio State, Alabama, whoever, they lose guys too. So it's I think Carolina right now, it's a blessing for this coming spring because even though you got Spencer coming back, Spencer's got a new OC. I don't think it's going to be a completely new offensive system. I think it's going to be called differently and set up differently. But he's comfortably your starter. So then you got Luke right behind him. What's great is that the rest of those dudes could just compete, and you can give them, like Shane says, you can give them a lot of reps because they run like 3 or 4 at a time on different fields and stuff. Rep. And so I think that's going to be overwhelmingly positive for the quote unquote other quarterbacks on the roster this year.
Sawyer Nix is due in here in just a couple of moments. Before we hit a timeout, let me remind you about Signorama, the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. If you head to Founders Park this weekend, you'll see national championship banners amongst many of the things out there that Signorama has put out at Founders. And then you can also go to Williams-Brice Stadium and Colonial Life Arena and pretty much everywhere else on campus and all around the city of Columbia and find their work. They are the experts of experts. Signorama in Columbia, Gamecock owned and operated, production, install, service, design, you name it. They are full service at Signorama. Signorama.com, but you can call their location directly if you need a vehicle wrap. If you need any type of signage, 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and we certainly appreciate them and what they do for us as we get to sit every day in the Signorama studios. As we mentioned, Sawyer Nix due up next right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show brought to you by Express Sunrooms.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Hey man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
This is freshman All-American Nicky Memorial of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you are listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John and his team a call, 803-446-4662. Talk about a potential porch or patio enclosure. That way you can enjoy the outside without the interference of bugs this summer. And we're joined now on the McKellar Enterprises guest line by none other than the extremely patient, and we appreciate you being patient with us, Sawyer Nix, for the mental edge. But when you get coaches on, they have a very finite window, and it's very specific, and we got to bring them in. But we're glad to have you this week. Happy to have you in.
Glad to be back in. Certainly, I know my spot on the totem pole. It's not at the ceiling level.
Well,
I hope my texts don't sound that bad.
I'm about to say, I was like,
about knowing my role. It's knowing my role.
I was like, wait, what did you say to him, Phil? Like, doing damage control here.
You know what? I deserve that.
Oh man, yeah. Well, it's I tell you what, I think. Was it yesterday, Sawyer, that you texted us about topics and I responded about baseball? But
last night.
I want to cut in front of that real quick because the Gamecocks last night almost pulled off a stunner and they didn't. It was a heartbreaker instead. Now they have to turn around and travel to a place where they don't have much success in their history against a team that they don't match up well, that already beat them by 40 points this year. And the only conversation, I think, I mean, they can play with teams. They just showed that. They went to Rupp and beat Kentucky. I think the only conversation that should be had leading into this ball game on Saturday for South Carolina is, where are they upstairs? Where do you think they are?
Yeah, I think it was a great game. I actually checked the score. I was like getting ready to wrap up my evening. All right, let me tie up loose ends, and I'll be heading towards bed too long. Let me check the score. Wait, did I read that right? The Gamecocks are ahead. It's about 10 minutes before the half. I was like, okay, all right. Well, I ended up, watching the rest on my phone to the bitter end. I think it was great to see, and even the I don't know, it was Morgan or who exactly mentioned, I can't remember which announcer, talked about Gigi and his body language and how that's been a theme. And I think that was a big part. Is body language often reveals what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And I think we saw, obviously there's home team advantage to that, but we saw a different body language from the team last night. We saw a different body language from Gigi that we haven't seen in the last few weeks. So I think that's a big boost to the team is when you have, one of your leaders, whether it's points or however you view Gigi, but he's a leader of the team. He's young, he's not matured as JC has said, but he is an important part to the success of this team. Now he doesn't make or break. Certainly they won a game without him, but for the most part, he is a straw that stirs the drink for the team this year for the most part. And it'll be interesting to see how they do go up there. Do they have the same body language and fortitude, knowing, hey, we just had a fight and we were in it? And can they take that same approach and attitude and also look at the game plan? All right, what were the things we did successful? How can we repeat those? All right, what do we need to be cautious about? And I think that's part of the game plan again. Emotions are important. They provide fuel, but you can't let those overtake, where the game plan is or the steps to stay in a fight and to win a game, to have success, to overcome challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a fragile. It seems like a fragile group because it's when Sawyer, regardless of how good a freshman is, when a freshman is the leader of your team, that's generally not good news.
I agree.
But he's not the only freshman on the team. They have other freshmen that are there, and then they've got a bunch of transfers that have really never truly been in the thick of it like they are right now in the Southeastern Conference. And then they got a bunch of guys that really weren't relied on at all to be significant contributors in years past. But they have, right, the last couple of weeks, you're kind of like, well, hey, they're alive. They're kicking. They, I think Jason, one of us mentioned this earlier, it might have been Phil or JC, in the fact that there is a new season coming soon. It's a very quick one. It's called the SEC tournament. And every team knows that. Teams that don't play well throughout the year, that know that they have zero chance in playing in the postseason, that is their only chance. And so you kind of build towards being at the top of your game during those 5 or 6 days that you're spending there playing in that basketball tournament. So, I just wonder, like, what type of job Coach Paris has over the next couple of days to keep his team focused and saying, hey, look, forget the record, forget the loss, and all those type of things. We're working towards the SEC tournament. So we got to worry about today, this minute for this minute, this half for this half. Like, that's a challenge for a coach, though, with a bunch of guys that have never really been through this before.
No, I totally agree. That is a challenge, and it's a constant refocusing. I think that's part of the coach's job is as games come and go, as tensions rise and fall, as losses as close as they were. I mean, there were opportunities for that game, and then was it the Georgia game? There was a missed layup, I believe, at the end of regulation.
It blown, yeah. It would have won. Yeah, it was Zach Davis. He just lost.
Yeah. So I mean that just makes it even more difficult when you're like, sometimes there is to lose in overtime. Sometimes emotionally is a bigger letdown than to lose by 5, in the last minute. So it does weigh heavily on the team, but that's part of the coach's job is to refocus them and for the players to help refocus each other and use some of that encouragement. And it's all a process. It's continual.
All right, to baseball. So this is I understand baseball because I played it. Unlike I don't have the power numbers as 11-year-old JC. It took me till I was 17 to get there to start leaving the yard 4 to 5 times a season. But there's nothing in the world that's like it, and here's why. Because if you're only successful 30% of the time when you shoot it in basketball, you ain't gonna be playing. If you only complete 30% of your passes, you're not playing. If you only catch 30% of the balls that are thrown to you, you're not playing. Every other sport out there, 30% you don't play. But in baseball, if you're successful at the plate 30% of the time, you're probably in whatever Hall of Fame you're in, depending on what league you played in. 300 hitters are very, very rare. But it's different in teaching somebody how to learn to deal with failure. Like we were just talking about the basketball team. Like we don't want them to learn how to deal with failure. Like you need to learn how to win. So this is a totally different animal here. Like in baseball, you can win all while you actually individually are out there losing over and over and over again. Like if you had baseball coaches who were learning, young baseball coaches, like a Scott Wingo, for instance, who's played the game, but now having to regurgitate the game back to a bunch of young guys, what advice would you give them when it comes to handling kids who, as the level gets better, right? High school baseball, college baseball, pro baseball, the competition gets harder, you're going to fail more, and it's going to tax you and it's going to test you. Like, how would you coach them through that?
Well, I'd say first, let's define failure. I mean, failure to, as you mentioned, failure in other sports would be, if you're only shooting 30% in basketball, that's bad. If you're only hitting 30% of the fairways, or 30% of the greens, which some days that would be pretty good for me, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
So just depending on how that goes. So part of it is defining, if guys are looking at hitting 500 or 600, that's not necessarily realistic. So part of it is, all right, what is a good goal? I mean, there's poor Mendoza, right? Mendoza line. That's got to be the worst feeling in sports to have something named after you, such as a Mendoza line.
That isn't good.
That's not good. Batting 200. But I went back and actually looked. You can go to D1 baseball and you can look up stats. Most years, season batting averages, there's only about 3 or 4 guys that batted 300 or better for the Gamecocks the last, several years. And so I think when you talk about, all right, maybe numbers shouldn't be a target. If we use numbers, let's look at if everybody on the team can bat 290 they're below, 300. But if everybody could do that, that's pretty good as an entire team. But what's the recipe to get there? Guys could hit a home run and then strike out 3 times. Well, that's 250 batting average, but how were the strikeouts? What was their process? And I think that's something I gained from listening to Maya Lee on the show, was very much he's gearing guys' focus towards what is their process, how do they approach the plate, how do they respond, what is their goal, and I think part of the goal is, small ball, getting back to that, which to some people is boring. When I work with athletes, sometimes I'll talk about, let's do some of the smaller things that maybe isn't exciting, but it's what's going to produce the best results, which is part of the game. Producing the best results, however you get there, is most important. So I think it starts with defining your goal and then developing a process or a recipe or steps along the way to be successful in the process, not in the end result. Otherwise, you'll be changing your swing every other day if there's no belief in that. And the guys have approach, and I think that's great coaching by Coach Lee. And I look forward to how the rest of the season unfolds, knowing that they're not going to be this hot, knowing that they're going to go into slumps. Do they go away from what they know is best? Because sometimes that's what happens. I know when I'm have a rough day, there's a few more cookies and chips missing, right? I may not do some of the things I need to do to take care of myself or be successful. But the danger is I want to steer away from that, because I need to stick to the things that I do to be successful as in my role as a meal performance coach or a counselor or dad or spouse. And so I think all of us, it's, what are the steps to get us to success, and being able to define our success without letting others define that.
So are you more of a chip guy or a cookie guy when you've had a long day? Because I'm more of a chip guy.
I mean, sweets are kind of my thing. Chocolate, sweets and chocolate are my thing. But I try and steer clear from them as much during the week, but I'm not always successful with that. So.
Yeah, I'm a sweets guy. You know what? I'm going to out myself here, guys. Like, put the kids to bed, 8 o'clock, glass of milk, sneak a couple of cookies.
That's when it's time to do a line of Oreos. That's Oreo time.
Wrap it up with Sawyer Nix, the mental edge. Usually on Tuesdays, but we've had Monty Lee and Taylor Edwards back to back.
Phil started drinking early this morning.
Yeah, Phil's like, he's got up.
Yeah.
By the way, blind squirrel. We figured it out.
Yeah.
We weren't being jerks. So
we weren't.
I've got some things to say about the Athens PD when we get back, and it's really a pro UGA slant. But anyway, So Sawyer, we talked with Stuart Lake yesterday, and we're talking about baseball and the numbers and how we can all sit here and say, don't look at the numbers, but the kids these days do. I think Nick Saban does probably the best job in athletics of getting guys to focus on just the task at hand and not getting caught up in this, that, or the other. But, as our world becomes more connected and there's more access to this type of stuff, kids are going to look at it, because they're all over social media and all over the internet anyway. So Stuart mentioned we had a guy that was in a slump, and Ray Tanner calls him up, or they were talking. They're like, well, just start over on the batting average, right? Just make it where he's hitting 600 instead of 2, which of course is not true
on the scoreboard.
But up on the scoreboard, And so these guys are obviously running up some stats, and things will continue. Probably not at this pace, but I expect Carolina to be pretty doggone good statistically heading into SEC play. So from a mental standpoint, how important do you think that is, especially these days, knowing that no matter what you do, kids are going to focus on the numbers, to have those big numbers, going in, and to have, a 20-2 record or whatever, going into what will be certainly a different level of challenge.
Where's the 1% principle? I think football is taken to that 1% growth principle. And what's the one thing that you're going to focus on? At a session earlier today, and the person would get overwhelmed and shut down if they thought about too many changes. So I'm like, let's focus on one thing. What's one thing? What's the one thing you got to do? And I think if the players can get to that, to refocus away from the numbers, and part of it is acknowledging, that's there. We can't run away from it, but we know what gets us there is the most important. That's more important than how we get there. I think in golf, I could say, oh, I got a birdie today or hit a great shot, but it's like, how did you get there? Well, it's luck. Okay, well, that's not going to help me on the other holes or any other time I play golf. That one moment was great, but the fact is I'm a pretty pathetic golfer. And the method to playing golf is not good. I need to get it fixed. But same thing with guys. They could have a great day where they hit the ball out of the park and have 1,000 batting average. Well, does that help them or hurt them the next game? And the opposite's true. If they have a bad game, again, do they go scrambling and grasping at straws? Or is that just, all right, what do I need to refocus on? What was the one thing I got away from that Coach Lee has helped me with? Or did I focus too much on this one pitch? Or did I try and change my swing? Or was I not patient enough? Or was I too patient? All those things are steps to review. I think after every game, athletes review games. I'll have them keep a journal. All right, what's one thing that went well that you've been practicing on? What is one thing you need to work on? And I try and define it in those terms, not what are all the things you did bad. What's one thing you have been practicing on that you had success with that you need to keep doing? What's one thing that you need to practice on, that you need to focus on, that you need to work on? And that leads them into their next practice, to their next rehearsal. They need to focus on those jobs. And I think that's the key. The numbers are there. They're going to be there. But how do we refocus on what made me successful or unsuccessful? And if I do the things that make me successful, in the end, the numbers work out. Your score, your batting average at the end of the season is more important than one game now or one game in a month. It's the whole big picture. And the only way you have success with the big picture is taking those steps along the way.
I found it fascinating. Right. I found it fascinating that Coach Lake had the nerve to tell us that, because now every ballpark that I go to, I'm look up there and be like, this kid ain't hitting 429. He's probably hitting $150 on the season. They're just trying to make this boy feel better.
That's right. Going to see where they're implementing that strategy everywhere we go. Right. Yeah.
Stu blew every SID's cover in America yesterday on our show. He outed them all. I'll actually see Kent Reichert tomorrow. I'm going to ask him if he ever does that and just see what his response is. So good stuff, man. Thank you, Sawyer. As Phil mentioned, we appreciate you being patient with us. Some of these coaches, when they say the time, that's the time. So
that's it.
We appreciate that.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Sawyer.
Yep. Well, I hope y'all have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
You got it.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Sawyer Nix, the mental edge every week right here on the Inside the Gamecocks show, and the show will return after these messages. We'll be back.
I want you to take me to Disney World.
Horror.
Calm down. JC is here. As y'all know, folks, the family and I have visited Disney World many times, but it can be overwhelming, especially if it's your first time going to the most magical place on earth. I highly recommend WhereThisRoadLeads.com and my friend Cherie, a certified Disney vacation planner. That's right. The mouse has given her permission to book your family vacation hassle-free. You don't know where to go, don't know where to stay, don't know where to eat, don't know what to do. It can be overwhelming. So get on WhereThisRoadLeads.com and schedule your free consultation right now. She can help you out. The prices are very reasonable. You don't pay any extra fees. In fact, she's much more reasonable maybe than booking it straight through Disney. So for your next Disney vacation, or, more likely your first, so you don't panic, go to WhereThisRoadLeads.com and talk to Cherie, certified Disney vacation planner, a partner of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Aventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey, Mo Cowboy here from the Carolina Gamecocks. You're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. One last time for the day, 803-446-4662 is how to get in touch with John Barber to talk about adding some sunshine in your life this summer. Good to have Sawyer back. Always good to be reminded to be awesome today.
That's a good point.
Be awesome today.
Yeah, man.
We need to get out a t-shirt. Be awesome today.
Hey, JC, how about do you know Buck Sanders?
I do. He's our North Carolina publisher. He's done this a lot longer than I have. Inside Carolina is the name of their website. It's the largest site on our network.
Is it really?
So well, they started a long time ago with a magazine, and so when they went to the web, it would have been like had Spurs and Feathers like become a website like mine, and because so they had all those people in circulation, so they, he's a master at selling subscriptions, and then really get a guy I admire, as far in my business. So, but yeah, I know what he wrote today. So
yeah, the reinventing the ACC discussion. Thoughts on that? Should the ACC dissolve? It only takes 8 to say we're out.
I think they're going to have a hard time coming up with 8 that say yes, because who's going to jump on that with Clemson and North Carolina, Clemson, Virginia Tech, probably Florida State. Miami wants an invite, so sure, maybe so that's what 5. You think Georgia Tech wants to explore SEC membership? I don't know. Maybe they're a Big Ten school.
Are you saying all of those schools, if this is for everybody to understand, this is not a conversation that is being had, at least that we're aware of. This is a column that was written on Inside Carolina.
Yeah.
24. Yeah. But if the ACC, you got two things going on here, right? Let me back up real quick, JC, and I'll throw it back to you and let you finish what you're saying.
Sure.
You got 2 things going on here. You got a TV contract that runs through 2036. Okay. They're looking around the rest of the country going, holy moly. The SEC is about to sign $1 billion TV deal, and we're stuck in this thing until 2036. It's 2023. This can't happen. All right. So you got that. And then you got the other side of it that is, okay, the only way to get out of this, because you got a grant of rights involved, is to dissolve the league, which is one of the most historical college athletics leagues in the country. For everybody always thinks football first. Well, they don't. Basketball first generally, okay? And then there's a lot of other great stuff that has happened in the ACC over the years and so on and so forth. So here's the point. You stick it out, you fall behind, or you dissolve the league, and it takes 8 members to be able to do that. But what you're saying, the schools you just mentioned, which I agree with you, they're the sexiest picks of the bunch, would all be interested in joining the Southeastern Conference. Do you not think that they would entertain something else, the Big 12, or creating another league?
Entertain the Big 10. I think if you're the Big 12 as well, you have UCF coming in the conference. If you could somehow get Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech, maybe Clemson in the Big 12, all of a sudden that league takes on a whole new – it's also a national type conference. It goes from Provo, Utah to Coral Gables, Florida. I think the Big 10, because of how I believe the Big 10 fancies itself and how I believe the ACC fancies itself as these, pseudo-academic focused places that really don't put a lot of emphasis on it, but they pretend like they do because they don't like the SEC. I think like the Big Ten would probably covet North Carolina and Virginia, covet those schools. I don't see Pitt, as good of a school as it is, getting into the Big Ten. I don't see them, looking at, Clemson and I'm over a while. Clemson would make sense for them if they wanted to expand into the South. I think what they would like to do, though, is as far as programs that fit who they think they are. I mean, North Carolina and Virginia act just like a Big Ten schools. I mean, arrogance and all that. But I also think that Southeastern Conference would love to have Virginia and North Carolina as well for other reasons. Number one, it gives you two massively big Southern states, and you probably, once you get North Carolina, Virginia, and the SEC, you have the whole South. I mean, there's no question. Those are kind of two holes there, and so I think the SEC would be highly interested in those two schools as well. And so, North Carolina is going to find a place to play. The Southeastern Conference would take North Carolina tomorrow. And I know people don't want to hear about that because they're like, well, they suck in football, blah, blah, blah. They're a national sports brand. They're synonymous with Michael Jordan, I mean, and yes, it's their basketball program that's pushed it, but they're also pretty damn good at other sports too. And it's a gigantically large state. Now, I haven't run the population numbers. The state of North Carolina has as many people in it as the state of Georgia. I mean, you're talking about, the Charlotte TV market, Raleigh-Durham, Greensboro. I mean, you're talking about all kinds of major markets. Then you get into Virginia, and it's also a very big state. And so there's eyeballs and stuff like that. I also think because the SEC does not have, Texas A&M and Missouri have a good academic reputation. They're AAU schools or whatever. The SEC kind of takes a hit on that. It's not fair. I don't think it matters. But you bring in UVA and North Carolina to that fold, and all of a sudden, man, you're pretty damn good academically too. Not to mention basketball, not to mention, the other sports that those schools are competitive with, and then the TV market. So those are the two programs I look at and go, yeah. Now Clemson, Florida State, obviously would be fits in the SEC. Or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or wherever they wanted to go. I think Clemson, being a land grant institution, besides their geographic location and fan base, they do have a large fan base, though, for a place that's located where they are. As an institution, they have a lot in common with the Big 10. There's not that much difference when you look at the campuses, other than the temperature and the weather, between, the land grant schools in the Big Ten, like in Iowa or Illinois, someplace like that. So now I don't see those guys enjoying the flight to Minneapolis for a November game with Minnesota. Do you see Clemson people going up there? They're like, oh my God, give me the orange, big old orange coat, orange coat. They'd go by that. They'd be going through highway construction zone and hijacking their clothes. Get that coat, man. Freedom. My dream, on that note, just a quick aside, I've told this story before. My dream was when they were talking about having the college football national championship game in Minneapolis. And it was back when they were playing it. Auburn and Alabama were both pretty good. Keep in mind, Auburn played for a national title in 2013. My dream for a while was 14 playoff. Auburn wins their side, Bama wins their side, and they have to go play the Iron Bowl in January in Minneapolis. And then I was going to sit there and put on my bathrobe and put a log on the fire and have a cocktail and listen to Feinbaum every single day while these jokers are driving their RVs from Alabama to Minneapolis to watch the Iron Bowl. Oh, Paul! I'm about 14 miles outside here on I-80 with cold corn and snow everywhere, and we'll get your War Eagle and go call. We're going to be Bammers today. We're going to Eddie, who's in an RV on I-80. Oh, Eddie, go ahead. You're going. They go to a Barner on there, gets a roll tide and up back and brings some trees, and the trees don't even grow up there. There's nothing but corn and snow. And then the tailgate before the game was have to be epic. It's like if the Grove and the Buffalo Bills fans had a baby, because the Alabama and Auburn people out there in the parking lot. Sonder, it does have a dome, but I'm talking about the pregame. They'll be fine once they get inside. Okay,
yeah, they'll be okay inside. Yeah,
I'm talking about the tailgating and the trip. Oh my gosh, you're out there. It's 6 degrees. Auburn and Bama are about to play. I mean, how weird would that be?
Propane
frozen
camp,
iron
snow
bowl.
froze.
Damn, Smokey's ribs. And they didn't work.
Auburn fans are gonna poison Lake Superior.
Can't get this meat over 100 degrees.
This meat, like frozen your beers. I mean, they wouldn't know what the hell to do. I mean, seriously, I want to see that 2 SEC teams, preferably Auburn and Alabama, play in Minneapolis. So,
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think.
No. I mean, they haven't put one in Minneapolis. I think you're gonna. They have the Indy is about as far north. And they may at one point, but it was weird enough that the one in LA didn't allow tailgating. She's a Georgia fan, and she took some pictures. That's very bizarre.
You know what? That was not. That was not just out there. That's happened at the last 3 college football playoffs. All 3 sites. The college football playoff has not allowed tailgating.
Interesting.
And you've got.
I went in 17 for Georgia, Bama. You could tailgate.
Yeah, they've. I wonder if it's because they've now created these tailgates with all this money they're paying all these performers and stuff. And they're trying to encourage that or encourage. I don't know what they're encouraging because the rest of college football. Because I know, let's see, this coming year they're in Houston, right? In 24.
Yeah. I'd have to ask my Clemson buddies about San Francisco if they allowed it out there for that one. Remember in 18? Yeah. 18. Then in 19, it was where? New Orleans. No.
It was, no. In 19.
No, yeah, 19 it was. Clemson LSU was in New Orleans.
No, that was, yeah. But it was played in 20.
The 19 season, 2020. Yeah. And then 21, pandemic, that was in Miami.
Yeah.
And then 22 was in Indy. They didn't allow an Indy either.
No. And they didn't allow it in Miami either. That's maybe the pandemic started that, and we're not allowing tailgating. But I can't imagine why they wouldn't have done that this year. I mean, but that was and it wasn't even a state law. People were hammering, and I was one of them who were hammering on the state of California and the Bay Area and the counties. It was not them. I absolutely retract what my statements. I read into this a ton to make sure that I could, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm wrong," because it was a college football playoff decision. Yeah.
Well, whoever's deciding that's a moron.
I'm asking this question again. Who are the people? It's not the selection. It's not the selection committee. The selection committee puts the teams in the games. It's not them. It's like the comments we had earlier this week. Executives say, "Who are executives?"
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
who are they? There is no commissioner. So who are the
executives? Bill Cosby there too. Who are the people? Who are these people?
That's what I'm asking.
Yellow pudding pop. Who are these?
I mean,
who are these people?
I don't understand it. I see Saunders said when they're in Atlanta. I don't know when they're going to be back in Atlanta.
It's coming up. It's not. It's like
26,
something like that. Yeah.
I have no idea.
Now Vegas. Well, see, some of these places though don't have room.
Oh, 25 in Atlanta.
Like some of these places don't have room. Like okay, the new stadium in Las Vegas. I think they do have a parking lot next to it, but it's like you basically like if I was going to a game there, my strategy to tailgate would be to sit over at the Mandalay Bay and with a cocktail in my hand waiting on my spray tan, right?
Yeah.
And then walking across the bridge to the stadium because Indy, I don't think has a lot of room downtown either. So it may be a parking thing. I know.
Well, I mean, how do Colts fans tailgate?
But I know San Francisco though that stadium's out in the burbs in Santa Clara. They got plenty of land around that thing. And so same thing with Miami. I mean, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is
got to
this,
be
this is ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. I mean, my God, the college football was built around tailgating. For God's sakes, you're going to take it away from them, the biggest game of the year. It's just stupid.
No, not Georgia's governor though. You better hope Brian Kemp's still in office though, and you don't. One of those other governors potential governors down there don't slide in.
They'll have to do what Ron DeSantis does down in Florida: sign laws in that people can't come in and break through. That's what they'll literally have to do. Sign some type of law in that says the NCAA cannot prohibit tailgating in the state of Georgia.
But see, the NCAA with the college football playoff, NCAA doesn't have anything to do with it. They provide the refs, and that's about it. And the rules of the game, and that's about it. So I don't know who the. I mean, that's very interesting. That's something I'm gonna have to look up.
Yeah, I don't know who the people are. When something happens in the NFL, it goes to the league office. It's called the league office. And then you know who these committees are and you know who the commissioner is. And that's it. I mean, there's always a name with a face or a face with a name or a name with an executive or whatever it is. In college football, it's just let's just throw a bunch of crap against the wall and then say that executives said. Well, who are they? Somebody tell me who the executive is. Is it John? Is it my neighbor? The guy that drives a truck? I mean, who is it? I don't know. It drives me nuts because the people that continuously screw up college sports are the ones that know nothing about college sports. That never makes any sense to me. Anyway,
yeah, see, it says there like at SoFi Stadium in LA, it's the All-State Championship game tailgate event, and they wanted to make money off of it. And then an alumni association, they kind of tried to pin this on Stan Kroenke, the former owner of the Rams, but it wasn't LA. It was the organizers. So that's just kind of weird.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know.
That's I'm looking at the college football playoff management structure here. So you got the management committee, which is 10 conference commissioners and Notre Dame AD. Then you have something above that, the board of managers, which are 11 university presidents and chancellors.
Oh my God!
The answer is embedded right there.
There it is.
There's the answer.
I mean, no offense to these people, but they know jack. You know what about running a college football game?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Jeez.
I mean, we just got to be. College football has got to be better. That's why there's all the issues you have because there's no leadership. It's poor, all of it. Nobody. Sankey continues to position himself to be the guy if they can ever figure out how to get there, but right now they can't figure out how to get there. So we just have to deal with college football executives said. Hey, if you're in charge, step up to the plate, pal. And say, I'm the one that said it, and here's why. Then nobody ever does that. Nobody does that. It's crazy.
Let's just say these people don't look like they're going to be in front of a camera claiming anything here anytime soon.
No, they're not going to do it.
No,
fans are what?
These look like the face of obfuscation.
All right, so all it was too was this. Like, okay, so they did say this. All right, so they said you could bring a cooler, and you could actually like quote unquote tailgate
in your car.
You just couldn't have. Well, that's what tailgating is. You're supposed to sit on the tailgate, right? That's where it originated.
I thought it said you couldn't be outside of your vehicle.
Well, how are you going to drink a beer? It's against the law to drink a beer in your car, man. I mean, that's an open container.
That's my point. It's like, well, you can have some drinks in your car, but wait a second. That would mean I would be behind the wheel. Exactly. We're going to get you. You know,
yeah, Bill Hancock.
This stupid fell for it.
Bill Hancock, the executive director of the playoff. Before that, it was BCS. He says the most. He's the nicest guy ever. He says the most without saying anything of any person I've ever met in sports. But he said fans are welcome to bring their coolers and enjoy themselves in their parking spaces at SoFi Stadium on Monday night. In addition, we're hosting the All-State Championship tailgate. That's a free event open to all ticket holders, people that own the ticket. Okay, bands from both schools as well. But for us to operate parking operations efficiently, we can't allow them to set up tents and grills or adjacent because we have limited on-site parking. Well, maybe I don't know.
No,
we need to dig in more.
It's all a lie. It's all a lie. The 49ers play there. I mean, the Rams.
Well, you mean the Chargers and Rams? Yeah. Well, they allow tailgating.
Yes,
Chargers and
it
Rams.
Works. They can tailgate.
You
This
think
is
they're
all a
not
lie.
grilling before the game? Yeah,
I mean
that's
come on.
ridiculous.
Like, do they really think we're just cutting TV on for the first time and seeing a football game? Like,
right.
Blind Squirrel, do you really just say you prefer living in Naperville, Illinois, or Joliet over
Georgia?
You must be in not a great part of Georgia. Look, I didn't like Georgia either when I lived there, to be honest. I lived in Atlanta twice. Just wasn't my thing. I actually like Chicago better.
I love North Georgia.
As far as the South, totally.
Yeah. North Georgia is spectacular.
By the way, Ryan brought it. Gunther Cunningham was the head coach of the Chiefs and then came back as D coordinator.
But still no college example.
Not that we're aware of. Maybe on like the D3 level or something, you know.
Think this through.
Oh, I bet there is some on that level.
Interim head coaches. Brian McClendon was interim at Georgia. Then now he's back as a coordinator or something. That's weird. That's different.
All right.
Loophole.
All right.
Well, tomorrow's Friday, and I don't know what the hell we're doing during this show tomorrow. I'll probably be drinking if it keeps up this way. So I know Phil's going to shove an Oreo or two up his nose when he gets off the air. So everybody, thoughts and prayers with Phil.
Squirrel mentioned Portillo's. I think that's a good idea call for me for lunch, by the way.
There you go. Serious thoughts and prayers, though, to 76 Gamecock, who's in with us every day, all day, and his brother, who's having a liver transplant, the 4th attempt at this. We will be thinking about you, and we sure hope you're with us tomorrow at 11 with some good news. That said, thanks to all of you, and always thanks to JC and Phil. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 on Inside the Gamecocks.